All right. Well, hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Solar Search channel. On today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different than we do on our normal videos. We're not going to be looking at any solar equipment or batteries today, but we're actually going to be taking a step back and asking the question, why do we prepare and what exactly is it that we're preparing for? Now, on today's program, I have a special guest for you that I believe is going to be a blessing to you. His name is Pastor Stan Johnson from the Spirit of Prophecy Church in Dallas, Texas. And I've been following Pastor Stan for the past 10 years, and he has, for the past 40 years, been a student and teacher of Bible prophecy. And if you haven't seen his channel, make sure that you take a look at his channel, because from what I've seen, he does the best job of anybody else out there reporting news and current events through the perspective of Bible prophecy. So Pastor Stan, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Solar Surge channel.
Thank you, sir. It's a privilege and an honor to be here. So what we want to talk about today is the fact that the dollar is dying. And yeah, I know the Fed's just raised the rate, but it's far more serious than that. Now, I got to give you an overview, and then we're going to dig in specifically here in just a second. So this guy, Chris Reed, so he has a dream, March 25th of 2022. Now, we absolutely positively know that this is from God. I can take a whole hour explaining how we know that, or we can just get to the main point, which is what you really want to hear. This is an overview, and then I'm about to go in and explain why we say that. So what happened was he had this dream where a man came to him. I believe it's an angel. He had a $50 bill. I think that represents the 50 states of the United States. He tore off 1/3 of the dollar bill, which is symbolizing first, the dollar will fall by 30% value. And the prophecies say, sad to say, it doesn't happen gradually, which of course give it a little time to prepare. It happens like literally over the night. One guy said it happened over a weekend. In other words, all of a sudden you wake up and the money in your account is 30% less. Everything is 30% less, is what the prophecies say. So after the third of the $50 bill was torn off, then he had people in this dream coming to him and handing him newspapers, and he saw the headlines and he remembered specifically the headlines. That's what we're going to talk about. The first one was, he said he saw the US dollar drops 30% in value, and the subtitle was Middle Eastern oil strikes deal with China instead of the US. That's an hour explanation to give you that, but essentially, as of August 24th, and I think I have it in here, that is now in process. So the dollar is no longer going to die and it's over the horizon someplace. It's at the end of the block. It's about to be at the end of the driveway. The next thing was he saw the headline that says the perfect storm. Cannot tell you how many newspaper headlines are actually saying those three words. That's another hour explanation. By the way, go to YouTube, go to Prophecy Club channel, and I explain all of this. Anyway, subtitle was Inflation Reaches a New High. Okay, fine. We've seen inflation hit. We know it's here, but it's about to get a lot worse. Third one was Food Shortage Crisis, as wheat and bread imports are at a stalemate, meaning there is no more wheat being shipped into the US. Now, we don't have to have wheat in the US from outside countries on a normal basis. But because of several other things that are happening, again, that's an hour explanation. Yes, we're about to have a massive food shortage in America. Next one. Then the angel comes to him again, and he takes another $50 bill. This time he tears it in half, meaning then the value of the dollar will go to 50% of value. Again, it happens overnight. You can't prepare for it. Matter of fact, the time to prepare for this stuff is now. Then the headline was Riots and Civil Unrest as Citizens Demand Entitlement Checks. I'm going to show you some of this. First, give you an overview. Then an earthquake happened under his feet. We've known that that's coming since at least 2010. Then he saw the headline, Israeli and Palestinian two-state solution is reached. Major earthquake hits the middle of the U.S. And several people were shown in various dreams and visions. I mean, it's all of a sudden the last 2 or 3 years, the lights have turned on. God has begun to speaking not just to prophets, but to just everyday people about what is coming. He's giving us a warning. You just got to go to the right place to get the warning. This major earthquake, and all of this happens because we split Israel. One guy heard, you split my land, now I split yours. Then the next headline was America in pieces, not having to do with an earthquake, having to do with states seceding from the United States. The headline was, more states secede from the nation in rebellion to the federal government. Then he saw U.S. military takes charge as uncertainty looms over the federal government. And we've known for 32 years that the fall of America would start with an internal revolution in America, started by the communists. And I believe that started, at least that started by the communist part, started with the election. Then he saw a new dollar bill like a cell phone. He saw George Washington's face on it. Headline was a new currency for a renewed nation, meaning the dollar is about to die. I've got several prophecies from several different people. The Bible says, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a thing be established. So one person has a dream, toss it. 2 people have a dream, you lift your eyebrows. But in the case of like food shortage, I got 14 different people that have dreams or visions or angel visits warning us there's about to be a food shortage. Now, let's go into the specifics of this. First of all, dollar will fall by 30%, and it happens overnight. This is Prophet Maurice Sklar, December 1, 2011. So it's 11 years ago. And he prophesied, he said, the American dollar is about to lose 30% more of its present value. This will be the second drop since the previous 2008 drop of 20%. The dollar will then be worth half. In other words, first it goes to 30%, then it goes to 50%, just what the other guys say. This will cause a great economic distress upon our nation. The church will be shaken, and many will wake up spiritually and cry out to me. There's about to be a great revival, not just in America, but across the world. There will also be looting, rioting, and terrorism. And they just started protesting at the Supreme Court justices, mad as all get out. So it started. It's not over the horizon. It's at the end of the block. Many will lose their money overnight. That's a thing. They all say it happens overnight as the stage is set for financial takeover of the Antichrist. This is imminent, and the dollar will also follow, although it will survive for a season more. The great revival will also begin. God has hidden his holy apostles and prophets for this present hour. There will be great outpourings of supernatural provision, miracles, and healing in various places, and their areas will become cities of refuge. Notice it didn't say mountains of refuge. It didn't say woods of refuge. It didn't say out in the hills someplace. It said cities. They all say revival takes place in the cities, and that people find food, refuge, and protection in the cities. Surprise, surprise. Then David Phillips had a dream. A family went on a vacation. Rampant inflation started again over the weekend. It was like we were living in the Old West. One person was selling rich crackers individually for $1,000 a cracker. That's inflation. The main thing people wanted, food. No money. They were bartering for food. Now, in this case, why do you barter? Because the dollar's reached worthless. People would steal anything just to get their hands out in the open, willing to gain extreme danger just to get food, non-refrigerated foods preferably. Then he had another dream. We were at a restaurant eating with friends. Waitress came and brought us the wrong menu. The food items should have been more expensive, but they said, since we gave you the wrong menu, we'll stand behind it. We began to watch a movie on the outside. Halfway through it, all of a sudden, it was abruptly turned off. Everything went dark. The restaurant announced, right now, stand up, gather your things, walk out. We will be closed for 6 months. Meaning, when this hits, it hits that fast. Yeah, there is no warning. And then when it says closed for 6 months, there's several other people that says that there's basically the nation is closed for 6 months. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm going to suggest you need to have at least 6 months, preferably a year's worth of food, long-term storage food. We'll get to that. Now, this is a lady. She's not a prophet. She does a cooking show, but she says all of a sudden I was waking out of a sound sleep. She heard the words, there's going to be a downfall of the economy, purchase non-perishable foods Now, Bible says in the mouth of two or three witnesses. Then, this is my wife, January 3rd. This is way back in 2021. She said, I had a dream. People were represented the church. We're in an amusement park. That's today. You know, people are living the life, right? They're living the dream, having a good time. That's America right now. Everything was fine, but they started getting very, very hungry. Food shortage. All the restaurants that had food availability was gone, meaning the food disappeared. I just saw on Fox News this morning that there's a shortage of baby food. Well, guess what? It's going to be more than just baby food. All the restaurants, the food availability was gone. They were not able to get food in this amusement park, so they were leaving in droves, but they left without shoes. Now, it's been a long time in America since people were so poor they didn't have shoes. That's what it's saying. Now, here's a real key. We were all looking for food, begging for even one piece of bread, not beans, not rice, not macaroni and cheese, bread. We're going to talk about that.
Hey, Pastor Sam, can I ask a question here? Because I know a lot of folks are going to be wondering a couple of things here. So, you know, early on in my career, one of my first solar projects, it was for a gentleman who, a Russian gentleman actually, who was working in Ukraine during the fall of the Soviet Union. And he was a professional man. He was a lawyer, and his friends were of similar social status, doctors, lawyers, professional people. And he was telling me what it was like when, you know, you went to bed one night and you had the equivalent of a few $100,000 in the bank. And then you wake up the next morning and it's just enough to buy food for that day or that week. And he said after some time had passed, it got to the point where, you know, that the highlight of the life was the weekly food shipment, where the government truck would come in and every household would get one chicken. And it would be people pretty much fighting over the chickens as they're coming off the truck to get their one chicken for that week. Is that the kind of thing that you expected to see happen here in the United States?
I think that's more of what we would expect to see in a communist country. I think it will be more like every man for himself. I don't think that there will be the trucks with chickens. I think that they'll just say, hope you find something. It's up to you. You know, you're capitalist, go find it. I think it'll be worse than that. Should it go on?
Sure. One other question, if I could, though, is, and that's that, you know, a lot of folks here are going to shake their head at this idea. Well, God told me in a dream and God told me this. Is there any evidence? Now, I certainly we've heard about massive inflation in the headlines. That is, the inflation is all-time high. We have seen that, or at least 40-year high. Do you have any other evidence that these other prophecies are coming to pass?
Well, yes, I do. I've got a lot of newspaper articles, but the real evidence when you're talking about did the person hear from God is in the mouth of two or three witnesses. In other words, you get one person says, hey, I had a dream. This is what I was shown. Then you see the same thing from another person, same thing from another person, same thing from another person. At that point, I don't care whether they're a prophet or not. Someplace in there, you say, look it, you know, we're getting several people seeing the same things. And that's what I'm about to show. That's how you know that you can count on this. When other people, credible people, are all having the same dream. That can't be just cooked up.
Got it. So what else are you hearing about the dollar collapse?
Okay. All right, let's continue. Now let's go to dollar down by 50% and an earthquake splits America. July 10, 2012, Shane Warren came into Prophecy Club, made a DVD, but he actually had a vision in 2010. Now, the short version of the vision was he saw that there's going to be a financial storm, and he saw that the dollar would become worthless as leaves blowing in the wind. Then he saw there would be an earthquake up the New Madrid fault. I think he'd say New Madrid. I get that mixed up all the time. Anyway, and he heard a booming voice say, they divided my land, now I will divide their land. So when we divide Israel, God is going to split America from the Great Lakes down to the Gulf of Mexico. It'll be a major, major catastrophe for America. Then he saw India, Syria, Indonesia, Turkey, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Egypt, Russia, China, all of these discussing how they could crash the dollar by buying oil in another currency. That's a key. And the problem is that's already started. Then he saw there was an internal revolution. He saw people in the streets with signs that says, give us our entitlements. That's the same word that the other brother saw too. Again, that's how we know this is of God. When they're getting the same words, they don't even, and they're 12 years apart. The dreams are 12 years apart. They don't even know each other. Okay, let's go on. Now, here's the proof. August 24th, 2001, Hal Turner reports Saudi and the Russian officials Tuesday announced the signing of military cooperation pact between the two countries. The story is back in the early 1970s, Saudis wanted to have the U.S. protect them. So the U.S. said, okay, fine, we'll protect you, but what we ask in payment is that you no longer sell any of your crude oil in anything but the U.S. dollar. And that made the 194 countries of the world have to go and buy dollars that raised the value of the dollar, buy dollars in order to buy crude oil. That was wonderful until August 24th of 2021. Now the Russians are protecting Saudis, so they don't have to have the dollar protecting them. And the prophecy specifically said the Middle East will begin to sell oil in another currency, and that is now in progress. So you can look. The fall of the dollar is no longer on the horizon. It's at the end of the block. It's in progress. The next prophecy says the dollar will go down by 66%. This is Dana Coverstone, very credible. August 10, 2020, I saw 100, this is only part of it, saw a $100 bill the size of a flag hanging on a flagpole burning on one corner. It was being lowered like a flag lowered at the end of the day. People had their hands on their hearts, were crying because the god of money was being lowered. The dollar had lost its value and it burned until only a third of it was left. That's 66% down. And the protesters, the death of the dollar was a celebration. Many people were celebrating while others were devastated and totally torn up over the death of the dollar. The value of the American dollar was dying. I heard someone playing taps in the background. Now let's go to the dollar hitting zero, worthless, and the digital cell phone, and also how it is replaced. Coverstone again, 2020. I saw businesses shuttered and closed, schools closed, cobwebs hanging them, no one in them for months. I saw bank buildings with roof being taken off and like vacuum cleaners sucking the money out. In other words, the money's gone. Charles Turner, April 2021. Had a vision. I was in a room and I heard a loud rumbling under my feet rolling behind me. On the wall in front of me began to appear numbers. The numbers are being calculated and contained like algebra and geometry. Then I saw cash dropping into an abyss type of place. There was no end of it. Cash was disappearing into darkness. I saw dollars begin to start fading on each side to the point where you could no longer read the numbers on the bills, but the numbers continued to fade away. Now, here's the important part. I was made to know the dollar is going away. I'll read that again. I was made to know the dollar is going away, and a cashless system of digital numbers is coming to be our new medium of exchange. He's right on. I heard the Lord say the word digital. I said the cash is fading away and digital is coming in as a new domain. So this dollar, it's going to totally go away. Coverstone again. I dreamed it was a sunny day, Wall Street background. Everything was clean and proper and businesslike. I was dressed normally. People standing several 6 to 8 feet, several deep behind a 6 to 8 foot long white table. Behind the tables were live chickens, fenced areas, horse, rack of eggs, tools, various meat and food vendors. There were customers lined up buying and trading and bartering. Why do they trade and barter? Because the dollar is dead. I saw a man walk up with 5 12-gauge shotgun shells in his hands and traded them for 10 small chickens. A lady walked up and traded 5 hammers for 15 boxes of screws and bolts. A gentleman in a very expensive suit took off his Rolex watch and traded it for 15 horses. The man trading the horses said it was worth 30 horses instead. There were no vehicles on the roads, but plenty of people riding bikes and skateboards. And now let me move on. Doug Metzger. I was in Bolivia at the time. He had this dream. Inflation was staggering, 2,300%, because they were printed currency with nothing backing it. My friend had bundles of Bolivia's currency. They used it for toilet paper in the jungle. I heard the Lord say America's collapse would start financially. I was calculating the inflation rate of the dollar. It was 10 to 1 plus a little, meaning was if something used to cost $1 today, it was now $10.50 the next day. We're facing two great events, the greatest time of horror the world has ever seen, matched by the greatest revelation of God's love for mankind, a great revival. Daniel Davis, this is important. So he pulled up to a gas station in this dream, saw a high fence with barbed wire. Inside the fence were tractors, power equipment, lawnmowers, chainsaws, all kinds of different items, clearly been traded. Frantic people trying to buy gas. An SUV pulled up. Father said, I need to buy a full tank of gas. Manager said, well, I don't take US dollars. What do you take then? Well, what do you have? Father basically went through and took whatever he wanted. Then he said, I saw a man walk to the microphone and say, everything was at a standstill. And I heard the man say, ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement to make. America, as you have known it, has ceased to exist. All property lines have been dissolved and the US dollar is worthless.
So I guess, getting back to the earlier question, I understand that you're hearing a lot of folks that are claiming to hear from God, and I guess part of what you do is kind of fact check it, for lack of a better term, right? As far as if you're hearing the same message from 2 or 3 people, now then what, you test that against what you're reading in the Bible to see does this line up?
Well, there is something else too. Back in 1987, I met and spent a lot of time with Dimitri Duduman. Now, most of the Christians that know that name, of all of the people that claim to be prophets in these modern days, they respect him probably more than anyone. I don't know of anybody that thinks he's a false prophet. He was put on the electric chair twice in Romania, trying to get him to tell how he smuggled Bibles. He wouldn't tell. They couldn't kill him. Twice on the electric chair. So I got the opportunity to spend some time with a real prophet so that I know how God really sounds and how he really talks. And I think that is one of my fortes, to be able to tell people, yeah, this is God, and no, that's not God. And I think that's one of the reasons we have so many people that follow our ministry, because we're able to point to the people that are really hearing from God.
Okay, so if these folks are really hearing from God, then why is God warning us about the currency collapse? What's the end game here?
I think it's because he loves us and he wants his people to know about these things that are coming. And sad to say, as much as you can talk to someone's face, seems like if their name's not in the book of life, if they haven't accepted Jesus as Lord and Savior, it's like you're talking Greek. It just goes in one ear and out the other. But those people that are supposed to hear will listen and make preparations. And I think that's, I mean, I've been studying prophecy 40 years. I've been doing a radio program and sometimes TV program on it for 29 years. I've done a lot. I mean, my world has been Bible. I memorized the book of Revelation, and I have never seen God talking as much as he has the last 3 years. Really, it started about a year before COVID. All of a sudden, people started getting dreams and visions and angel visits like I've never seen. And it's because we are about to go in the last days. We're just right on the precipice of it. That's why he's trying to warn people that we'll hear.
I guess that's all we've got for the first segment. Then I'm going to trust that these words are reaching whoever they're meant to reach out there, and that they'll take appropriate action. Okay, guys, welcome back. So in the next section now, we're going to be looking specifically about food shortages. So Pastor Sam, what are you hearing about food shortages? Because I actually just got back from the grocery store. If you go in there, it looks and feels like a normal day today. But what do we need to know about?
Well, on Fox News this morning, they said that there is a nationwide shortage on baby food. I'm really surprised that they would even put that out, or that they would let baby food be one of the first things that's in shortage. But I've got numerous articles. Matter of fact, I'd have to say it's probably the bigger thing that's being reported on in the news than anything. Here, let me show you. Let me go to a share screen here. So let me show you some of the articles I have having to do with food shortage. 570,000 chickens set to be destroyed in an effort to contain bird flu. Sad to say, it's happening all across America for sure, and even in foreign countries. Nearly 17 million dead chickens and turkeys from a catastrophic event. Then there's more. Kansas seed business in no man's land amid soaring wheat prices. And they go on to say that we're in a dry area. 75% of Kansas wheat right now is in good to poor to very poor condition. And that's because we're lacking moisture. But there's more. 3 factors which are about to make the coming food shortages even worse. 400 million people across 45 cities in China are under a partial lockdown. Okay, so the lockdown didn't work in America so good. So it is working in China, and they have shut down China. I mean, they've locked it down hard. 40% of the domestic product comes out of China. Analysts are ringing warning bells that there is a global, not just America, a global economic prolonged isolation orders that has been ordered. In other words, it's man-made. It says 20% of the Chinese freight traffic in 2021 is essentially at a standstill. Food supplies stuck in shipping containers without access to refrigeration are rotting. Tyson chicken breast went from $6.95 to $9.95, a 43% jump. Crackers, he had to wait 4 months for a certain time of cracker to even get in. Ukraine and Russia usually account for approximately 30% of all global wheat exports. These days, it seems that though almost everything that can go wrong for global food production is now going wrong, and the stage is being set for a sort of a horrific global famine. They can print money, but they can't print food. You got to grow the food. Now, here's the question. Sad to say, I've got an answer. How can all 18-wheelers nationwide be stopped? I'll say it again. How can all 18-wheelers nationwide be stopped? They've got a way. Here it is. Fertilizer and DEF fluid shipments are being limited. Okay, so what's DEF? It is diesel exhaust fluid, an emissions control product required for diesel trucks. And the largest single production facility for products in the North America is, guess what? Shut down. Fertilizer and also rail shipments are now being halted during spring planting. Union Pacific is halting the delivery of see, this is man-made, okay? Halting the delivery of fertilizer shipments in the middle of peak planting season for farmers, and nitrogen fertilizer shipment delays. So the things that make our food grow, they're not letting it get to the farmers. Headline: U.S. rail carriers are cutting fertilizer, grain, and coal shipments. CF, that's the people that make the DEF liquid, was advised by Union Pacific to reduce its shipments to approximately 20% effective immediately. Numerous service interruptions, crew shortages in select areas, and delays are in our network. Ceased business with one of the largest fertilizer producers in the country during the peak of planting season. CF Industries informed the public that its customers, its services via Union Pacific rail lines, should not only expect significant shipping delays, but will be unable to accept new rail sales involving Union Pacific for the foreseeable future. Meaning, see, in America, because we don't let our ground lay fallow once every 7 years, we just fertilize it and we shock it full of water and some other chemicals, and we make the plants grow. Well, that's fine as long as you got the fertilizer to put on it. But when they don't have the fertilizer, those kind of crops they're planting won't come up, or won't come up anywhere close to the amount of harvest that they're used to. Now, CF explained that that Texas, California, and Kansas and Nebraska can expect basically no fertilizer. Well, where do we grow our food? Kansas, California, Kansas, Texas, and Nebraska. Diesel exhaust fluid, which diesel engines such as Semi-Trucks require for their mandated emissions controls, not being shipped. Things are bad now, but you ain't seen nothing yet. The global fertilizer crisis, by the way, I didn't go looking for all this. People that send it to our ministry have sent these to me. Anyway, it says it's only going to intensify. It looks like fighting between two of the most critical bread baskets in the world, meaning Ukraine and Russia, is going to continue. Add to that, the bird flu pandemic continues to wipe out millions of chickens and turkeys all over the globe. This is a perfect storm, but it is self-inflicted. For example, the Chinese government has mandated lockdowns. Now, what you're looking at are all of these ships that are either going to or coming from, and they can't get out because Shanghai is in a lockdown. Now, what's in those ships? Let me tell you what's in those ships. There's racquetball strings that I can't get to play racquetball with. There's nuts and bolts for trucks to keep them going. There is food items, all kinds of problems. This is one as of April 25 and 22. The red items are the things that are oil. And then the green have to do with food and other kinds of shipping. And they're not moving, just like the prophecy said. Shanghai is one of the largest manufacturing centers in China. It manufactures things like automotive, electronic suppliers. It's the largest container port in the world. Shanghai accounts for 7.2% of China's total volume, 20% of China's export container. Most warehouses and plants are closed. 9 out of 10 trucks are sidelined. Shipping units are stranded. Freight is piling up. The average price for butter grew 11.9% in the last year. 100% meat frankfurters jumping 35%. Pork chops, whole chicken increases 11.15% and 11.7% respectively. All of these, if you want to read through it, all of these are lists of food items in America that have increased. The losses to egg-laying flocks, desperately racing to meet market demands for eggs. Egg prices increasing as a result. Price of a dozen eggs is now close to $3, up from $1.60. Less than 20% of the world's population has managed to stockpile more than half the globe's maize and other grains. The hoarding has now begun in China. Since the war in Ukraine started, nation after nation has started to implement export restrictions. A global scramble for agricultural commodities has steadily pushed up prices. Nobody wants to be caught empty-handed when the music stops. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, the music has stopped. And if you do not have a chair, meaning if you do not have food stored up that can be cooked in a time of crisis, you're already in trouble. Nobody wants to be caught empty-handed when music stops, so there's a race to secure precious supplies while it is still possible to do so. Nobody can say they weren't warned in advance. This sort of collapse has been coming for a long time. It has arrived. I would encourage you to stockpile food. Now, he says, these are relatively low prices compared to what it's about to be. Now, I actually made this loaf of bread, and this is actually whole wheat bread. You cut one of those loaves, the wheat, the bread you get in the store is about a pound, and it's mostly just air. It's just fluff. There's very little nutrition to it. This is a 3-pound loaf. You cut that into 14 slices, and I find if I ate one in the morning, matter of fact, I was just eating a slice here just a moment ago. Hadn't finished it. As soon as we get done, I'll finish that. That's my lunch today. But you cut that 14 slices. I find if I eat one in the morning and one in the afternoon, I'm satisfied. If I eat 3 slices, I probably overate. If I eat 4 slices, I may not be able to get to sleep till 12 or 12:30 at night because I've got so much energy. I eat a slice of it before I go play racquetball, and the guys say, man, you're running like the wind lately, because I feel more strength, more endurance. So there's not a perfect food. In other words, one food that a person can eat their entire lifetime and stay healthy. There's not one. But probably whole wheat bread comes closest as you can possibly get. Remember the days of Pharaoh and Joseph? Well, during the time of 7 years of famine, the world lived off of wheat. Wasn't beans, wasn't rice, sure wasn't macaroni and cheese. It was wheat. So about 12 weeks ago, we started a for-profit company called Joseph's Kitchen, specifically to teach people how to take wheat berries, you don't call them seeds, wheat berries, put them into a mill. 30 seconds later, you have wheat flour. Then you take that, put it into a bread machine, push a button, 2 hours, along with 6 other ingredients. 2 hours and 20 minutes later, you have a nice hot steaming loaf of whole wheat bread. I would recommend you go to Joseph's Kitchen. Now, what you want to do while you're there, first of all, you have to get a machines package, because you got to take those wheat berries and make flour. There's a grain mill in there. Next is you put that into the bread machine, along with wheat and flour and eggs and yeast and all that sort of stuff. 6 ingredients. Push a button, 2 hours, 20 minutes later, you have a nice hot steaming loaf of whole wheat bread. We give you everything you need. There's also a bread slicer, a thermometer, beakers, everything you need to make the wheat. Then next you have to decide how much food you want to have. Most of your long-term storage food, your emergency food people, most of those cost between $9,000 and $10,000 for one person for 1 year. You got that? $9,000 and $10,000, one person, 1 year. Joseph's Kitchen can show you how to do it for about $1,000 a person. Let me show you. So if you want to get food for 2 people 1 year, 6 people 1 year, 1 person 1 year, 4 people 1 year, and let's take, for example, 6 people 1 year at $3,400, and you add the machines package, a little shipping and tax and stuff. So you're talking about $4,000, maybe even $4,500 at the most, to feed 6 people for a year. Divide that out, that's less than $1,000 a person. So I'd recommend you go to josephskitchen.com. And I suggest that when you get it, don't just put it in the closet. Instead, immediately start making bread with it so you can learn how to make bread. All right, now let's go to another one. This is Jason Meeks back in 2021. He lives in Kentucky. He says, Stan and I and 20 other people were in the back of the grocery store in this dream. The group walked from the back to the main store to purchase Tang, which should have cost $1. But now the price is $5.99. So it went up to $6. We saw all the price of the goods on the shelf were 30 to 40% higher than last week, meaning all of this happens very quickly. We all bought an item, headed to the back, whereas it used to be full of stock and merchandise, but now it's all cleaned out. Pallets of goods, shrink wrapped on there, all removed, all gone, cleared out. People had their food protected by 2x4 boards and chicken wire. Skip down. There were crackers, old canned goods, non-perishable food items, all kinds of random items. Now let's go to the next one. He had another dream. In this dream, I saw a local deli here where I eat. Typically, a meal is $13. Now I'd gone up to $75, and it happened again. Another one. Let me skip this one. Then Hal Turner, August 23rd, said the United States Department of Agriculture has been sending out letters telling the farmers that they should intentionally create a food shortage. These destruction letters said that if the American farmers would have X number of days to destroy their crops in the ground, for which they would then be paid 1.5 times the crop value. Now, I put this out on our program. I got several emails about that's not true. So I told people, hey, I was emailed that's not true. Here comes a bunch of emails back that says, "'Tis true too." We got the same letter. So in other words, the evil people in high places are doing everything they can to create a food shortage. Now at Joseph's Kitchen, we can send you food at probably the most, matter of fact, it'll reduce your food costs right now. I'd suggest you start taking it. February 26th, Byron Searle. In this vision, he says, I saw people in large cities in lockdown. People were being ordered to stay inside their homes and apartments. I saw what looked like a riot taking place in the parking lot, jammed people in cars, car doors left wide open, people all over wildly running about. I watched the people running as fast as they could in almost every direction, screaming and shouting hysterically. I was observing complete and utter chaos and hysteria. Not one person was calm, all running about yelling, screaming, and crying. I asked, what's going on? The National Guard were planning martial law order advising everyone that have to stay in their homes. Now, I don't know if that's because there's another pandemic coming or if there's so much chaos and riots in the street is not safe. I don't know. He told me that nearly all of the food shelves were totally empty of food, water, other goods. He said that people in the stores were acting like crazed rabid animals, throwing cans of food at each other and stealing each other's carts. I went in, it was complete chaos, wild fighting. People at the checkout lines were yelling and screaming at the cashiers because their debit and credit cards weren't working. People began to bypass the register, just run into the stores without paying for food in their carts. I saw people attacking people who were running out with food, waiting on miles. People grabbed and beat the people who were leaving the store with the food, taking their food, leaving the people on the ground injured and lying on the ground. Shelves emptied in minutes like a pack of ravenous wolves or frenzied sharks over food. It was unbelievable to watch this take place. Everything in the store was totally destroyed. The doors were pulled off the refrigerated freezer sections, broken and thrown on the floor, shelving units pushed over, knocked down, broken up. There was no food left all at any place in the store. People began running back in stock room to search for more food. Okay, so you get the point here. He says, I thought we would be gone before all this happened, but it didn't happen. All right, let me go to the next one. It seemed as if in 1 hour, everything had gone from normal to complete and utter chaos. That's a theme we see all through this. The dollar falls quickly. The food runs out quickly. It's like it's an overnight thing. Charles Turner, 2020. I saw people robbing each other, breaking into the homes, stealing things from cars on the street, people stealing food, taking things from each other by force and willing to die for it. I said, what's going on? From above me, I heard a voice say, bloodshed. I was shown more people shooting each other. Everyone's carrying guns in the street. There were no police anywhere to police this issue or to bring any other order. It was complete chaos. Well, we wouldn't have believed there would be no police. That is until after they started treating them so badly. But, I heard that like a lot of the police departments, 90% of the police left. Russian central bank chief says alternative to the SWIFT system already in place. Right now, we've been using a SWIFT system ever since World War II. But what this is saying is that the Russian government is now working on a one world digital currency for global trade. That's all part of the dollar falling. All of the dollar falling, all of this food shortage, it's all part of it. It's not over the horizon anymore. It's at the end of the block. Newsmax, Visa, MasterCard stopping all Russian transactions. Visa, MasterCard announced they're going to stop, and they did. So what did Russia do? It just backed its currency with gold. And there's a lot of articles like these. I could go through a lot of these articles reading them.
Well, that's a lot, Pastor Stanley. Obviously, I've been following your program for some time, so I've seen a lot of these reports before. But for folks that are prepping, and I think that's probably one common denominator. If you're prepping out there, then generally you're storing some type of food, right? Or you at least understand that one of the most critical preparedness items that you need is food. What is it that people need to do? Maybe they haven't gotten started as soon as they should now, but what is the key takeaway, and what do people need to do right now if they want to secure the food supply for their family?
It's a very good question. Okay, first of all, they say that you can't go without air for more than 3 minutes. So I'd recommend a person have a good mask that can filter out some various contaminants like suitcase nukes and radioactive material in the air. Second, they say you can't go more than 3 days without water. So I'd recommend that you have a Berkey water filter. That's the one that the missionaries use. And we just got a big order of them in at prophecyclub.com. The Berkey water filter comes in basically 3 sizes. You can get a small one like with 2 filters, or you can get the Imperial model as a medium one. I have the Crown. It has 8 filters in it. It's enough to filter water for the whole block. prophecyclub.com. The next thing is food. They say you can't go without food more than 30 days. And in America, the one thing I'd say our biggest fear is not having food. And I believe that, matter of fact, let me tell you this story, how I got started doing this Joseph's Kitchen thing. So probably 9 months ago, somebody sent me a link, watch this. So I started skimming through it, and the lady said something caught my attention. It's a lady standing in a church telling all about the benefits of making your own home ground whole wheat flour. So I ordered some. My wife and I, she didn't help. So I made a couple of loaves from whole wheat berries. I'm talking about the size of BBs, and actually ground them up. And I bought the little mill and ground them up and made a couple of loaves of bread. We liked it. And I said, hey, let's start doing this. My wife says, okay, if you're going to do that, you better buy a bread machine because I'm not doing this. So we bought a bread machine, started making the bread. It was really good. And someplace in there, it came to me that this is the hand of God showing me that kind of like in the days of Joseph and Pharaoh, the 7 years of plenty provided the wheat for the 7 years of famine, and that the real God's famine food is wheat. So one thing led to another. I ordered 8,000 pounds of wheat, and a lot of our congregation wanted to get it. And then I ordered 18,000. I'm talking about me personally, through Prophecy Club. God sent the money. It was amazing. And then it just dawned on me, wait a minute, we need to do something like on a larger scale. Not only that, but there was prophecies coming in. It's like all of a sudden he opened my eyes to see the word bread in several of the prophecies. So 12 weeks ago, we started Joseph's Kitchen. Now, to tell you what has happened, we were thinking, oh, well, if we get, like $2,000 or $3,000 in orders for the first couple of weeks, that's good. If we get $3,000 to $5,000 in orders, the first couple of weeks, that'd be really good. We got more than $7,000 in order the first 2 weeks. We'd say, wow. I can't even begin to tell you the number of what has happened. We have already sold, I think it's safe to say, 5 truckloads of wheat. Now, what's a truckload? So wheat normally, and here's another problem that Joseph Kitchen has solved, wheat normally comes in a 50-pound paper bag. What's the problem with that? Well, one of my bags that arrived when I was first doing this, the bag was broken inside of the box, and I had wheat spilled every place. And then also it can get moisture, and mice and rats can eat it. So at Joseph Kitchen, what we do is put it into a 7-gallon pail, 50 pounds, and then we nitrogen pack it under 1,000 pounds of pressure to blow out the oxygen. That way, theoretically, if it does have any bugs in it, they die. And the wheat, while we can't claim it's going to last 25 years, a lot of people say it probably will. Even the wheat place says just putting it in a pail probably make it last 7 to 10 years. Many people say it's over 25 years that wheat. And of course, in the pyramids, they pulled wheat out of the pyramids, 3,000 years old, planted it and it grew. So the advantage to wheat is it doesn't need refrigeration. So anyway, what's on a pallet? There's 50 bags, 50-pound bags on a pallet. There's 17 pallets in a truckload, and we probably sold, I don't know, 4 or 5 truckloads. As a matter of fact, we don't order them in 50-pound bags anymore. Now we order them in 2,000-pound totes, 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot, this big polyester bag with loops on it. The forklift lifts up, and now we have hoppers, put it into the hopper, and now I understand that they process about 10 pails a minute. And that's how much, because people are ordering. But the reason is most of the long-term storage emergency food out there is $9,000 or $10,000 for one person for 1 year. Let me say it again. $9,000 to $10,000 to feed one person for 1 year. Joseph Kitchen is doing it for in the ballpark of around $1,000 a person. We aren't half their price. We are a third their price. We're 10% of their price. Nobody that I know of, no one sent me an email, no one's corrected me on this, but apparently we're the only one in the nation doing this way. And I believe that this is God's famine food. That's what fed the world during the 7 years of the famine in the days of Joseph Pharaoh. And I think it's what he's planning to feed his people with in the trouble ahead. You have to have a machines package because you have to take it from the wheat berries to the flour and then a machine to make it all for you. Get a machines package and then decide how much food you want after that. And my suggestion is that you get more than what you think you need. But matter of fact, the price of the wheat has already gone up to us. When we first started, it was like $125, 7 pounds. And I don't know exactly what it is today, but I know it's gone up. And it'll probably keep, matter of fact, here, I'll tell you another story. So we went in, we were getting lecithin. That's one of the ingredients. And we had an order placed for 1242, we get this right, 1242-pound pails of lecithin. Put it in the cart the night before, but the money hadn't actually arrived in our account yet. We were just starting. And we placed the order at $225 a pail. The next day, it went to $525 a pail. And right now, lecithin is like, there's a worldwide shortage on it. We just acquired a place to get lecithin. And it's been that way with a lot of things. God has just miraculously just supplied it. So again, I'd recommend you go to josephskitchen.com. And, you know, I believe in solar stuff and everything like that. But at the end of the day, you got to have food. You got to have food.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the number one prep. And for those who are not familiar with the story of Joseph in the Bible, Joseph actually was somebody who God was able to interpret dreams, correct? In fact, maybe you can help folks. So Joseph ultimately became the most powerful man in Egypt, second to Pharaoh himself, because he had this gift that allowed him to find favor with the Pharaoh, which was namely the interpretation of dream. Specifically one of Pharaoh's dreams, right, of having 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. And that's why he began to stockpile wheat.
We have a saying at Joseph's Kitchen, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So in the land of the starving, a guy that has a loaf of bread is king. Now, I'll agree, pulling up to or to a gas station trying to trade for a loaf of bread for a tank of gas. It might be better to have some gold and silver for that, which we would send people to cornerstoneassetmetals.com for that. But having a loaf of bread will be extremely valuable. You pull out a 3-pound loaf of bread and you can probably get anything you want. That's the thing. And it's probably the cheapest food in terms of nutritional food there is out there.
I think we can all agree, food is one of the most critical preparations. You have to have it. And I like the way you break it down, because you're absolutely right. If you buy the prepackaged 25-year non-perishable emergency food and you do the math on that, of what actually it takes to feed a person for a year, it's about 10 times the cost of what you're doing with basically getting the raw ingredients, getting the natural wheat berries, and then learning how to grind them into flour and make bread with it.
And we have videos that shows them how to do that. We have all the recipes. Matter of fact, there's a video up. Just go to prophecyclub.com. Excuse me, actually go to YouTube and then do a search for Prophecy Club or one of the other platforms. Just search Prophecy Club and you'll see that there's videos up there, 3 minutes on how to make bread. And then also have a longer one that's an hour, more detailed explanation. But it ain't tough. I mean, I'm not a cook. My son said, I never thought I'd ever see Dad doing a cooking show. I'm not a cook, but I make bread. And I can do it really fast, having done it now 80 times. And it's the primary thing I eat. That's the rest of my lunch today. And that is jalapeno bread. I made that myself. If you look real close, you can see some jalapenos in there.
So do they really call you Stan the Bread Man now?
Yeah, they made me a t-shirt. Says something like that. I forget what it was. Says, Bread Man. Yeah.
But all joking aside, of course, guys, you have to have a secure food supply. You need a secure energy source as well to run that equipment. But Stan, one of the things you talk about, and I know Dimitri, I believe, talked about one of his prophecies was this idea of only in righteousness will they find safety. What does that mean?
In my life, I was raised in a Christian church, Christian home. But then I got married to a little girl I couldn't drag her to church. And consequently, I fell away and I fell into the world. There was lots of problems. But finally, I decided I was going to clean up my life. And I said, Lord, if you'll forgive me, if you'll give me another chance from here on out, I promise, I'll read your book, King James, and I will follow it to the very best of my ability. And my life started turning around for the better from that moment on. The whole point of this is there is a thing called the tribulation. As prophecy students and the Bible refer to it as the tribulation. It's the last 7 years before time ends when Jesus returns. And my best calculations is it's really close. I do not know when. I want to be clear on that. Sometimes I think it could start this year. Sometimes I think, no, we've got several years. But the point is, anybody that is familiar with what the Bible says about the last days, there's one thing they all agree on. It's not on the horizon. It's at the end of the block. It's just about to hit. Now with all of this pandemic stuff, now with all the food shortages, and now what the prophecies say about this thing in Russia, I'd have to explain, but Daniel 7 says that once the Russian bear begins to roll, it won't stop rolling until it reaches Armageddon. That's when Jesus returns. You'll see Russia continue. She'll overcome Latvia, Estonia, as well as Ukraine, but it won't stop there. And till finally NATO goes against Russia, and it'll be like a giant bear, some men with sticks trying to fight off a giant angry bear. In other words, Russia is going to roll over NATO, all of them. And it's going to be a continual war right up until Jesus returns. So all of these things, there's some really, really bad times coming. And the whole point of it is to get people to realize that they need a savior, that they can't fix this world. They can't fix their world. They can't solve things by themselves. And in my case, I made a mess of my life. And I said, Lord, I've made a mess of my life, but if you'll give me another chance from here on out, I'll do it right. And that's when I really made an agreement, a pact with Jesus. I said, if you'll forgive me from here on out, I'm yours. And I remember Dan Bowler was speaking at a Prophecy Club meeting back in 1997 to Omaha, group in Omaha. And he says, how many of you found Jesus? Can I see your hands? Of course, all hands went up. He said, no, you didn't. He said, he tackled you, he hog-tied you, and he drug you into the kingdom. Now, since you had a second to think about it, that's exactly right, isn't it? They all went, yeah. In other words, a lot of times people find Jesus at a particularly low point in their life, either mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually, something like that. So God is going to arrange all of this difficulty so that those people whom he chooses will make the decision to receive him. So if you have not made that decision, make it easy on yourself. If you make the decision now, then perhaps you don't have to go through the trouble ahead. There is no preparation that a person can prepare and be prepared without Jesus. On the other hand, with Jesus, perhaps we can go through less torment, less trouble if we find him. I suggest that you ask Jesus into your heart. Any little thing you're doing wrong, offensive, lying, cheating, porn, girls, drugs, whatever it might, you got to stop all of that. I mean, that is major, major, major problem. If you're in that, count on it. You're about to see some really hard times. Ask Jesus into your heart. Start reading your King James Bible like your life depends on it, because it does. And I don't have to do any long prayer. It's as simple as this. Racquetball buddy says, well, how do I accept Jesus? I said, simple as this. Just say, Jesus, be my God. But then you got to make steps to make him your God. That means going to church, starting to pray, reading your Bible, because being a Christian is not a one-time prayer. Being a Christian is a lifetime of walking the way Jesus walked. And in order to do that, you got to read that King James Bible. If it's another version of the Bible, toss it, throw it away. It's not the real truth. King James Bible. And understand that there's not going to be a time when Jesus returns in the clouds. That's a misunderstanding. And so he's going to pull everybody up so they don't have to go through any trouble. That's a misunderstanding. Now, 60 seconds on that. So in 2017, I memorized the book of Revelation. I didn't think anything special was going to happen, but something special did start happening. I started getting revelations. In other words, all of a sudden, this wisdom just dumped in my head like I never had before. And I had got 30 revelations, 2 visions, and an audible voice. And in one of the visions, he showed me a secret door, one word that links the feast of Leviticus 23 to the prophecies of Revelation. And that's the problem, because we were given the book of Revelation 2,000 years ago, but we weren't given the order. We weren't given the key to understand it. But with the secret door, all of a sudden, things can be put in correct chronological order. So things fit. And I wrote it in a book called Secret Door to Understand Bible Prophecy. Secret Door to Understand Bible Prophecy. Get a copy at prophecyclub.com. Now, when you read that book in the back of it, and I should have one laying here, but I don't. In the back of it, it has a chart that lays out so you can read the book, and you read through this chart. You can say, oh, okay. All right. I get it. I understand. And it helps you to understand. This is tomorrow's newspaper written in the book today. And it will show you and help you to understand what the Bible says is about to come, because it is coming. Again, it's at the end of the block. It could even start this year. I don't know. But with all the things happening like we've never seen, I keep hearing people say, oh, this is unprecedented. No, I've never seen this in my lifetime. Yeah, well, you're going to start seeing a whole lot more of that. So step number 1, you got to have air. You got to have water. You got to have food, and you got to have Jesus. Without those 4 things, you're in trouble. Just say, Jesus, be my God. Show me what I need to do. Show me what I need to do to be a Christian. Show me what I have to do to live eternally with you. And he will.
Yeah, Pastor Sam, when you said that only in righteousness shall they find safety, this scripture came to mind. I'd like to read it for the audience. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21. For he hath made him to be sin for us, who knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness of God in him. So guys, if you don't have a relationship with God out there, it's not about you in that you've earned God's favor from your good behavior. It's about recognizing that you are a sinner that needs to be saved and trusting in the work that Jesus Christ has already done for you, and then letting him work on you, because this is a lifelong process of sanctification, of God cleaning you up and cleaning you out so that we're prepared for eternal life. But I guess that's the message, Pastor Stan, is, you know, whatever physical preparations we make here, that's great. And it may ease our suffering during these difficult times that we're going into. But ultimately, this is about getting back to the kingdom of God, getting back to God's blessing.
I mean, I've seen this done on TV before. This is the first time I've ever done it. I just felt the Lord touch me. I can show you exactly the place. I felt him just touch me, and he just impressed me to say this, that there's somebody out there right now and you are caught in drugs. I mean, they got you. They got you and you don't think you can get off of them. You, to a certain degree, you like them, don't like them as much today as you used to like them, but you don't think you can get off. You would like to do this Christian stuff. You'd like to clean up your life, but you don't think you can walk away from this drugs. So I'm inspired to tell you, just say, Jesus, be my God. Ask me, and ask him to help you get off these drugs, and he can stop it just that quick. He'll stop it that quick, because all power in heaven and earth was given to him. Look, he kills, he makes alive. He wounds, he heals, and neither can any deliver out of his hand. He has the keys of hell and death. And the demons at his name have to flee. Say, Jesus, be my God. Jesus, clean me up. Jesus, get me out of these drugs, and he will in Jesus' name.
Amen. Well, folks, the website, Prophecy Club, the website, prophecyclub.com, Prophecy Club YouTube channel, josephskitchen.com if you're looking for a secure food supply. But most importantly, get in right relationship with God, even if it's just making that first small step.
Prophecyclub.com, josephskitchen.com. Prophecyclub.com, josephskitchen.com. In Jesus.
Pastor Stan, thank you. Thank you so much. I know this is going to be a blessing to somebody out there.